familiar faces and so many friends that have returned here to the Liberty Bowl, where over the last 30 years we built quite a few memories. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you, to start our program, our new Director of Athletics at the University, Mr. Tom Bowen.
Good afternoon and welcome all the families of all of our fallen brother Tigers, all the Highland 100, all the former players, all the members of my staff, the community, the media, and Waleed, especially thank you for being here today. Today, the University of Memphis, President Martin and myself announced the rededication of the field here at the Liberty Bowl. It began by a very special man in the 80s named John Elkington that had the city of Memphis embrace this. And today, we honor our four fallen Tigers and the great gift they gave the university during their time. We, the University of Memphis, the athletic department, and the Highland 100 are here today to celebrate those memories and those individuals. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you the president of the Highland 100, Brett Laird, who will now speak a few words.
Thank you all for being here. Since 1958, the Highland 100's been here as the booster club of Tiger football. I'm proud to be president of this organization because they're a bunch of loyal people, not a bunch of front runners, a bunch of bandwagon jumpers, or a bunch of people with character that stick by our program. We've always been here for this football program, and we always will be. We're here today to support the memory of Chris Farrows, Charles Greenhill, Glenn Jones, and Coach Rex Stock. Tragic plane crash in 1983 changed the lives of these families and of the Memphis football program. Today we're going to unveil a plaque. It is a rededication of the memory of these men and their contributions to our community. Before we do that, there are several people that need to be acknowledged for their efforts in making this happen. I want to thank Steve Earhart, the Liberty Bowl. I want to thank Brad Martin, president of our university, Tom Bowen and his staff, and the City of Memphis government for allowing this to happen. There's one other name I want to mention, and that is named Mike Freddy. Mike has conceived of this idea, and he has followed it through to the completion of this project. Were it not for Mike, we wouldn't all be here today. So I want to thank Mike especially for what he's done. And at this point, I'd like to ask Waleed, Pam Ferris-Russell, Sylvia Greenhill, she's here, and Marty Dobson, come on up and let's take care of this. Waleed will say a few words now.
I hope I can talk without crying today. It has been an incredible reunion to return and see these people that are so special to me, so special to the university. I would like for our families to stand. You saw the women in the group, but I'd like for the Charles's family. Harris's family. Family. She wrote 13 people. So. And of course, Marty Jones Dobson, Chris Jones's family. I'd like to also introduce my family. My sons, if everyone would stand up, my sons Trey and Dee. Their children, nephew, Steve and Gary Gibson, cousins, and all that. These are special people to me and were to Rex. And I am so honored to speak, to be the voice representing these families today. A special thanks to Mike. I told Mike I was going to try not to cry, but there's so many people that his passion have led forward to today, and I am so grateful to you. There are other people that are in the audience. We have lots of football players. So if y'all would raise your hands, some of you probably are, most of you are standing. Players from that team, raise your hand. My sons, because we were a family. There are people like Deborah Harris, George Lapidis, who's sitting up here on the first row, George Warham, Louie and Nancy Alford, who was an administrative assistant, staff, university, and community. I once wrote, and I still believe, that part of Rex's life was a shining moment in time. It was a magical journey for our family, the whole community. It had a painful ending, but when I think about that time, I don't always think about the ending. I think about the magical family relationships that we formed. Now, it didn't start so well, because when Rex was hired, his coaching buddies teased him about being hired at Tiger High. But for a long time, it appeared that that's what had happened, because he had the nation's longest losing streak. If you remember, we lost 17 straight games. But this staff and this community went out and recruited, and they convinced young players to come, players that had incredible talent. I think we owned the state of Tennessee at that time. And they turned the program around one night, last game of 1982. It was against Arkansas State, and there were only probably 5,000 fans who were still there, and they were probably in the audience this afternoon. They were so excited to get a real number in the win column after the nation's longest losing streak, they tore the goalpost down. Right, you remember, don't you? It was an amazing, amazing moment, because we really had turned that program around. In fact, the next season in 1983, the coaches stressed so in every day, and we have a former coach that was on our staff here, actually too, talked about the importance of a family, that we are a family. We're a family of one. We win that way. And that saying is immortalized on this plaque right up here, and I want you to come by and read it yourselves. Because it says players love players, coaches love players, players love coaches, coaches love coaches. And that's what they believed, and that's what they bought into. Now, not everybody believed right away in this family of one stuff. In fact, there was a preseason poll that came out in preseason of 1983. We did make a poll. We were named the worst major college football team in the entire country. But you know, our players didn't believe that anymore. They didn't believe it at all. And they went out, and against University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, it was an incredible night. I think it was 37-14, am I right?
17.
37-14. And the goalpost because we had breakout games against Vanderbilt. Oh, what a game. I think that was the game that Louis got locked into the players' room, locker room, and Rex wouldn't let him out to halftime. And then we played University of Cincinnati. It's so appropriate that we're here tonight on the University of Cincinnati night, because that was a game that we discovered that Charles Greenhill was going to be a future star in the NFL. It was something. We had players by the name of Jeff Womack, who had been Player of the Year the year before. Charles was the Player of the Year in the state. Kirk Crane, Cedric Wright, Percy Neighbors, Dedrick Crawford. A bunch of the players that are in the audience tonight had breakout games. And it seemed like that every time Charles touched that ball, you just couldn't stop him. He was running 20 and 30 and 40 yards for his first touchdown, I believe, that night. It was amazing. And it was catching, because they knew now they were on their way. But the dearest memory of all was against Louisville on Thanksgiving. Well, we had, in true family spirit, we had a Thanksgiving dinner together. And Clyde Avant's father prayed over that meal, and boy, he could say a prayer. And we went out and we played. And it was so cold that night. The rain, the water on that artificial turf had frozen over, and they were playing on a sheet of ice. And people were there from all over. Glenn Jones brought a plane full of people to every game. Many of you followed the game. I think Mike told me he was there. There were so many faithful that followed us everywhere to cheer us on. Well, we finished the halftime, and we were just still kind of not sure. But we had a breakout second half. The score wound up being 45-7. But that was another one of Charles's great games. We had 431 yards on that sheet of ice. 392 of them were rushing yards. That means that everybody that was touching the ball the second half was going somewhere, and they were going toward the goal. We picked off 5 passes. We didn't have to attempt very many. In fact, Clyde Avant caught one of them for a touchdown. Charles had team-leading 9 tackles, and it was something. When our players came off the field that night, it was a memory that, for those of you who were there, you probably never will forget. Because preseason, Rex had told the players, when we have a winning season, and it happened that night, I'm going to do the county fair grass drills for you. Now, for those of you who haven't played football, grass drills are not much fun, but he said, all right, guys, I'll do it for you too. And they were ready to collect that night. So they called him out, county fair, coach, and he came out, and they gathered around, and they started chanting. And he was down on the turf, push up, roll over, run in place, up on your feet. And when it was last over, he leaped high in the air, and he threw his arm up, and he was caught by that tight circle of cheering bodies. And 40 more arms went up with his. I'll never forget that sight, because that was truly the moment that they had been working for all season. They were a family, they were one, and they were victorious. It was incredible. On the plane coming home, you would have thought our team was Alabama winning the 3rd championship. They were up and down the aisles, they were high-fiving, they couldn't be seated, they were so excited, and we were all excited. Well, it didn't end exactly like we wanted, but nobody can take those incredible friendships, that incredible sense of family, that incredible time away from us or away from this university. And I'm so grateful to all of the people that were part of it. They gave your hearts, that still continue to give your hearts to this university, to the young men who come through this place, to the new coach who has the same philosophy, to the new AD who is going back and trying to create traditions and memories that will serve the future. I'm grateful for you all. still remember us to this day. And for everybody that goes by this sign on the way to the game, I really hope it will encourage you to take this feeling of family forward and make it a part of the future of this university. As I close, I want to finish by talking about a philosophy that Rex had, and I used it in the book I wrote about his coaching philosophy. In fact, I used the name of the philosophy as the name of the book. It's called Only as One. Now, this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky, and the wolf that shall keep it will prosper, and the wolf that shall break it must die. And this is the law of athletics, as true as the flight of the ball. The player that keeps it shall prosper, and the player that breaks it will fall. As the ball and the parts that it's made of are bound and held fast by the seam, the strength of the team is the player, and the strength of the player, the team. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Wally. This is an extraordinary moment. It truly is about fellowship and family. I want to thank everybody for being here, be part of this family. Because I am a New Memphian. We are the new Tigers. So we're excited to be tied to the traditions of Tigers. I will tell you that our celebration will continue. At 4 o'clock today, we invite all of you for fellowship and food and libation at the M Club tent put on by the M Club director, Dwight Boyd, and his merry men and men. I'll tell you that we're here to celebrate a great day. It is ironic that it is against Cincinnati, our foe today, who will fall